It's gone by many names: cooperating, telling, tattletelling, talking, ratting, informing, snitching. For as many names as there are for it, there's even more ways you can actually do it. See, the misconception is that you stand in a courtroom, you put your left hand on the Bible and your right hand to the sky, and then you sit down and you testify in a courtroom. That's just one way. I know this series covers the cartel, but let's not get it twisted. Cartel guys aren't the only ones that are talking. And the no snitching culture and all the quote-unquote rules that are based around it, I learned those right here in the United States. And all the different ways there is to cooperate or tell have been done by your favorite gangsters and your favorite rappers and so on and so forth. The difference is you choose to pick and choose which one of these rules are for you and which ones are not. And for the cheerleaders, supporters, and fans of some of these monsters, there's a confirmation bias, a lack of accountability in the sense that they'll say anything in order for their favorite person to not be called a snitch, a cooperator, a rat. So they make excuses for these people. Technically, he didn't sit on the stand and testify. Or his paperwork says this and doesn't say that. Or they were robbing him and they were stealing him. They were going to do him dirty. Or I was the dirty sent-off guy and they sent me off to lie on him. And they say, well, he had no other choice. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Or they say he snitched on him first. See, it means different things to different people. Some people, and these are lines that we push here in the United States, not just in Mexico, not just in Colombia, and not just anywhere else in the world. Right here. They push the lines and say, oh, can't talk to police. Can't dial 911 if your home gets robbed. Can't dial 911 if your car gets stolen. Can't talk to the police if your grandmother is kidnapped. Can't be seen standing next to a police officer. It even goes farther than crime in our culture. We grew up knowing that if you tell your dad on your brother's gonna call you a snitch. If you're the kind of guy that would tell your best friend's wife that he's stepping out on her, he would call you a snitch. If there's a serial killer that lives next door to you, you are not allowed to call 911. Even now, in 2026, if you save screenshots or record phone calls to protect yourself or to be a troll or to get leverage on someone else, people look at you and say, you're moving like a fed. Even the police has a code of silence that sometimes stays silent and sometimes it doesn't. It's been embedded in our culture for a long time. But just like non-practicing religious people that decide to pick and choose which verses in the Bibles or the Qurans or whatever else you got out there applies to them, and which don't, they do the same thing. They pick and choose who can say something, who cannot say something. For some people, the rule is nothing. No contact. You keep your mouth shut about everything in your life. That same person putting that rule down and pretending they're enforcing it are not living by it themselves. But the hypocrisy involved in this culture of no snitching needs to be addressed. Because as I've said before, the rules only apply to you. And today we're going to talk about Chapo Guzmán. And we're going to talk to all of the cheerleaders and all of the people that make a million excuses for him. We're just going to show the pattern. And we're going to start through the lens of the American no snitching culture. So I think the veil should be pulled off of the supposed and so-called code of silence and exposed for the whole world to see that your favorite gangster might be a snitch. Forget about the movies that glorify cooperation and the music from artists that snitch on themselves and take away the person actually sitting on the stand, pointing the finger, telling on the defendant. There's a whole lot of different things that are considered cooperation if you go according to the rules that have been placed by the streets. There's dry snitching, where you simply implicate or separate yourself from a situation to the point where you actually point the finger and indict someone else. According to the rules, if you're in a car with somebody else and that person happens to get pulled over and the police ask you whose gun was that in the car and you say, wasn't my gun, you dry snitched. You didn't stay silent. You didn't say what gun. You said, wasn't my gun. Well, who else was in the car? Just one other person. But you didn't have to say all that. And then there's the person that has something horrible done to them, and if they dial 911, they're considered cooperating. If they take place in court proceedings over said crime, they are considered cooperating. They are considered to be breaking the rule and the code of the streets. Infamously, T.I., whose tour bus, I believe, was riddled with bullets, and a friend of his, Phil, murdered, T.I. took the stand in that case.
You recognize who that is?
Yeah, that's Phil.
How did Falant's family find out about his death?
I told him. I called his mom first, then I told his cousin. I told his little girl.
How old was his little girl?
His daughter was 4 years old at the time. Five years old at the time.
And how did you tell his mom that her son was gone?
Well, first I apologized. I apologized because, I felt that, all All of those rounds were fired for me.
According to the streets, it was his business in that case to mind his business, say nothing, and not help the family get any closure in court whatsoever. Then there's been the times that T.I. has been caught in compromising situations and been arrested, famously on the day of the BET Awards in October 2007, caught with an arsenal of weapons that would have put most people under the jail. People always questioned what kind of deal T.I. made. Then there's those that are considered doing the work of the police. Again, T.I. brought into this as far as, from my understanding, some prerequisite of a deal he made that had him the spokesperson for Crime Stoppers and do a public service announcement for the TV on who to call to tell.
Hey, what's happening, y'all? Some people call me Tip, but this is about another kind of tip that can help our mothers, our sisters, our brothers, and our fathers help get the perpetrators who commit crimes against them off the streets. All you got to do is call Crime Stoppers Atlanta. Tips can be anonymous, and there's even a reward. The number to Crime Stoppers Atlanta is...
Then there's the guy that does the dirty work in the hood. And because he does the dirty work in the hood, there's no limits he won't reach to do what he's told or asked to do. Famous story, again connected to T.I., would be his artist Alpha Mega. Not just his artist, but his muscle at the time. When allegations of snitching came out against Alpha Mega, T.I. separated himself from him. Alpha Mega's argument was, I ain't never snitched on nobody in my life. I lied on somebody.
I ain't never snitched on nobody. I ain't no snitch. I don't work for the DEA, none of that. I didn't know Ali, don't know Ali to the day. On some real, never did any business with Ali, and he know this. There's somebody that he know that I know. Came to me with something, they had something on me, you know what I'm saying? And we don't hear a say on that, what it is, or who it was. But they put the pressure on me, and it wasn't the government, it wasn't nobody like that. They put the pressure on me to basically lie on this dude. It was up to me to either play the hand I was dealt or fold. If I play the hand I dealt, I'm looking at 30, 40. If I fold, I mean I'm still in the game. So I went ahead on and folded. And from the time I did it, I was remorseful about it. Like it hurt me. Basically, I ain't snitched on the dude. I lied on this dude. You know what I'm saying? Like didn't know this dude, and I was young at the time. I'm being honest with y'all. I'm keeping it real. I was young. My strongest and my weakness points always been my loyalty. I was loyal to somebody that made me lie on somebody. They used my loyalty against me.
Basically saying he doesn't consider it cooperating because he did it as a hit for the streets. Along with the guys that believe that calling 911 is not an option, you have the infamous Cameron interview with Anderson Cooper, where Cameron was asked if a serial killer lived in the building, would you call the police on him? I never agreed with Cam's answer.
Is there any situation where you think it's okay to talk to the police?
Yeah, definitely. Say hello, how you feel, everything all right, period.
That's it?
There's nothing really to talk about with the police. I mean, for what?
If there's a serial killer living next door to you, though, and you know that person is, killing people, would you be a snitch if you called police and told them?
If I knew the serial killer was living next door to me?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call and tell anybody on him, but I'll probably move, but I'm not going to call and be like, the serial killer's in 4E.
My belief is there's only two ways to deal with that situation. You take care of the serial killer yourself, or you call in on them. But that kind of delusion about moving away and allowing a serial killer to eat up the block because you don't want to handle it or dial 911 is part of this code that we've been embedded that has made victims out of innocent people. Then there's the people that believe that because you take a plea deal and acknowledge any affiliation, that is considered cooperating. Famously on The Sopranos, the boss of New York was brought up on trial, made a plea deal, and had to acknowledge the existence of La Cosa Nostra. For this, he was considered a snitch, as was Gunna from the Young Thug case, who acknowledged the existence of YSL as a gang.
I became affiliated with YSL around 2016. Is that true as it pertains to you, Mr. Kitchens?
Yes, ma'am.
YSL is a music label and a gang. And you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
So many rules and so many sneaky ways around them. And so many people that don't consider themselves cooperators that have committed these workarounds. None of this is actually about the code. It's about the control. There's many other examples I can give, but with the rest of the time we got, we're going to look at the blurred lines and the blurred code that Joaquin El Chapo Guzman has used his entire criminal career. And some of these blurred lines are the things that kept his team in position. He never had to put his left hand on the Bible and put up his right hand and sit on the stand to break every other rule in the so-called code. On the 24th of May, 1993, in the parking lot of the Guadalajara International Airport, Chapo and his team were getting ready to catch flights to go have a little vacation. At the same time, famous Cardinal Juan Jesus Posada Ocampo was also pulling up to the airport to catch a flight. During this time, El Chapo was embroiled in a war with the Arellano Felix cartel. The official story says the Arellano Felix crew caught up to Chapo and his team in that parking lot, and it turned into a melee that left 6 people dead, one of them being the Cardinal Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo. The Mexican government put the blame on El Chapo himself, and Chapo, through his legal team and in personal statements, consistently denied having anything to do with the murder of the Cardinal. Now, if we're playing by these blurred lines and these blurred rules, his denial itself is a damnable offense. Not saying who did it, but who didn't. If you go according to the code, him saying anything at all implicates somebody else, maybe the Arellanos. And even as recent as 2025, while serving his sentence in the Colorado ADX, Chapo continues to write letters implicating the Mexican government in the assassination of the Cardinal. Just because he used his lawyers, just because he used letters to the courts, just because he did not sit on a stand and testify, does not mean that he did not cooperate. And if you're a supporter of this lifestyle and you're not holding his feet to the fire for breaking the blurred lines of the code, you are in fact picking and choosing. If you're wearing a hoodie or a pair of sweats with his face on it, you are indeed picking and choosing. You are further blurring the line of this so-called code. In the most recent letters that Chapo has sent to judges explaining how he had nothing to do with the Cardinal's assassination and explaining how he's receiving unfair treatment, those type of letters and the kind of behavior that his lawyers took in 1993 when they made the denials for him are not new, nor are they old news. In his 2018-2019 trial, Chapo, through his attorney, Jeffrey Lichtman, implied that he was a scapegoat and a patsy, and that the media and the United States government and law enforcement was pushing this monster El Chapo narrative, when indeed they implied, or basically said out loud, El Mayo Zambada is the chief. El Mayo Zambada is the boss. I'm simply a subordinate. I'm simply a scapegoat, a patsy. He didn't get on the stand, point at a picture of El Mayo and say, I'm not the boss, he's the boss. He sent his law dogs to do it. And they did. Once again, breaking the supposed code. Using a system that you fought against to survive. That sounds like cooperation to me. Throughout these instances, we're seeing a reoccurring pattern of the same kind of behavior. And it goes all the way to doing law enforcement's job for them. It's widely believed and alleged that El Chapo turned in Alfredo Beltran Leiva, El Mochomo, brother of Arturo Beltran Leiva, leaders of the Beltran Leiva cartel, who at the time was part of the Sinaloa cartel. And according to these allegations, Chapo turned in Mochomo for Ivan Archibaldo Guzman, El Chapo's son, who was in prison at the time, who was released shortly after the arrest of Mochomo on a technicality. Again, these are allegations. I'm just showing more patterns that these code violations have been present throughout this man's criminal career. Then there's the notorious kidnapping of Peter Flores by El Chapo on bad information from Lupe Ledesma, someone that the Flores twins looked at like an uncle, who lied to El Chapo and told El Chapo that the Flores twins owed him $10 million, when indeed it was Lupe that owed El Chapo $10 million. Meanwhile, Lupe lied to Jay Flores through Chapo's intermediaries by telling them to tell Jay that Lupe was also kidnapped. This was Lupe insulating his lie from Chapo, so he thought. Jay Flores went on a mission to find his brother, and this mission took him all the way to the mountains where Chapo was hiding out, to meet the man himself, El Chapo. When confronted by Jay Flores about Lupe's lie, Chapo made a suggestion, an ironic one, but at this point too early to tell. He suggested that Jay go and meet with Lupe with a recording device on him and record the conversation so that Chapo could discern if he's telling the truth or not.
He can't get over that Lupe was lying. I told him, like, just think about this. Lupe told you that we owed him money, but yet he's telling us that he's kidnapped too. And he asked him, Chapo,
is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that's what he told us to say. He whispered, like,
oh, Lupe, what did you do? You know, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. This is what I want you to do. I'm gonna send you back with a couple of my guys, and you're gonna talk to them. I want you to go back. I want you to buy a recorder. Put it in your pocket. You put it somewhere. I want you to talk to him. I want you to record him. I want to listen to everything he has to say.
If you record him and I think he's lying, we'll talk. You're gonna be in a better situation. Something I probably never thought about. especially not in that business, like recording someone. I remember thinking, like, is that the way he, because he's stuck in the mountains, is that the way he was able to like know what was true from what was not? Like, because he's not able to sit with people, I guess, physically all the time.
In the U.S., someone would say, you're moving like a Fed. This is more along that pattern that Chapo's had his entire criminal career, crossing the blurred lines in the supposed code, recording secret, incriminating conversations, the same tactic that eventually would bring about his demise. And then we get to the alleged meeting between El Chapo, his compadre, El Licenciado, Chapo's 4 sons, and Licenciado's son, Minilik, where the fathers advised the sons to surrender, turn themselves in for an easier life. Chapo tells his sons and myself in 2013, you know what? Why don't you guys surrender? You already have money. Think it would be better if you changed your lives now. Go to the United States. Me and your father will take care of everything here. We'll pass on information. We'll get rid of enemies. And when you guys want to come to Mexico, nobody's going to call you snitches. Nobody's going to do anything to you here. We'll be the good guys. Don't worry. You can come over whenever you want on vacation and live here with your family. Everything will be fine. It was a fantasy. All rose-colored glasses. So that's when we started seriously considering the idea of surrendering. And then after everything that happened, I surrendered, and then everything that came with that. As far as surrendering, it was just another stage, another level. A lot of people are in prison. So why be so chased and so hunted and so persecuted by the government? So, well, I think it's okay to talk. I talked to my family, my father, and at the end of the day, the one who could take the credit for my surrender, I believe, is my father. This allegation was made by Damaso Lopez, El Minilik, after a split between himself and the Chapitos. So some think it's just him putting dirt on their name. But from all of the things that we've seen as of recent, seems like this conversation happened. And it may have happened more times than once. And Chapo probably wasn't the only boss having this conversation with his sons. This is guidance. This is advice on how to make a deal, what you should look for, what you should expect. This is an acknowledgement of, in case of emergency, break glass. It's an acknowledgement of those who have permission can, and those who don't suffer. At some point, survival becomes policy, and the power of preservation and survival will always beat out ideology. Their opportunity to escape will allow any blurred line to be crossed. And these are just a few examples of El Chapo breaking more than one rule in this supposed code. This is a lifelong pattern. This is part of his character, cemented down in the core of who he is. I'm sure there's other examples of this in his lifetime. It would take us all day. But I want you to remember, when you're wearing the t-shirts and you're glorifying these characters that have been sold to you as superheroes, that at the end of the day, they will break every code that they threaten you to hold sacred. This also uncovers a preaching and teaching of this kind of workaround telling, passed down to their sons. You don't have to sit on the stand in a courtroom to teach people how to tell. Just think of the irony of El Chapo putting Jay Flores of the Flores twins up on recording people, and eventually the Flores twins, years later, being the ones to bring him down with a recording of him. Different players, same game. Different positions, same game. They used the tactic on him that he gave them. Chapo didn't invent cooperation. He refined it. The system didn't betray El Chapo. It followed his blueprint. Please believe honor goes out the window when survival's at hand. And blind loyalty is just a playground for fools. We'll cover others in this series, others that did testify, others that did do law enforcement's work. We'll see who really paid the price. The question isn't who snitched, it's who survived long enough to rewrite the rules and enforce them on you, and only you. So make sure you stay clear of the game. Find yourself in your own lane, because if we learn nothing else we've learned, your heroes will tell.